program. I think we're doing great. So, everyone take a deep breath because we're going to go ahead and start with our treatment for freedom. I speak my word for myself, my center, and all its members and friends. I know love as the only reality. I am created out of love. Love is what I am. I know this love as absolute freedom in every area of my life, the life of my center, and all who call it home. I know our center's mortgages are paid in full, and I claim for all of us financial freedom with all debts paid and cleared. I release any sense of struggle or wrongdoing. I live in an abundant universe where there is more than enough for all. We experience freedom in every moment by always having more than enough money, vibrant health, and loving relationships. We are who we have come here to be. With hearts open wide, we see the world through the eyes of love. We are blessed, we are rich, and we are free. And so it is. Yay. And the tools through which we are currently working. I always pay attention. I always tell the truth and tell it quickly. I always ask for what I want when I want it. I always take total responsibility for my experience, and I always keep my agreements. Deep breath. If you don't think that will change you, you haven't been paying attention. And as Sherry shared, the first thing that we started off with was forgiveness work. To forgive everyone and everything, especially and including yourself. And I have been really busy with all of this stuff. Keep in mind, I've got over 35 years in this teaching, and I thought I was doing pretty good. I'm living a great life. I'm in a wonderful relationship. I'm doing my genius and my passion with people that I love. I've got lots of money, and still it seems like every time I turn around, I'm either working on forgiving someone, telling the truth and telling it quickly. Some of you have been the recipients of that. Asking for what I want, taking responsibility for my action, doing my inner work, doing the treatment. And I started to feel like, because when I first got the idea, let's pay off our mortgages. I want freedom. And I don't just want freedom for our center, I want each and every person who calls this center home to be financially free. And having spent lots of years with Edwene Gaines, she says that all debt is lack of forgiveness, because as we hold on to that energy, then we are not allowing the freedom of the universe to support us to move into and through our experience. So the first thing to do is to start forgiving everybody. And we heard with Sherry what will happen to an entire family if one person moves into that state. And so I'm looking at this idea saying, I want Center for Spiritual Living Asheville to be the place that people come to and get rid of their debt. They release any sense of burden, any sense of struggle, any sense of life is hard, and they move into that idea that says, I have plenty of money to do what I've come here to do and to be who I have come here to be. I want our center to be able to do what it has come here to do and to be who it has come here to be. And I have grand visions of what that might look like. And that's all well and good. And over the last month, I've been kind of saying, gee, nothing really big happened. I'm doing my treatment. I'm doing my points of power. I'm doing my forgiveness work. And I kind of thought that maybe somebody would come up and say, let me just write out a check for all of the mortgages. Other centers have had that happen. Or that someone was going to win the lottery like me, you know. And so when nothing really spectacular happened, what I looked at is the treat and move your feet aspect of the teaching. And so I want you to know, just to give you an update, that our Board of Trustees decided that whatever income is in the checkbook above our reserves, we're just going to go ahead and put it on the principal of our mortgages. And so what I want you to know is that in the month of June, within dollars, we put $20,000 on the principal of our mortgages. And the interesting thing about that is that nothing has really changed except us. Every board member, every practitioner, everyone in the leadership council is working on forgiveness. Everyone in the center has been asked, if you want to play, to do the treatment for freedom, to live by those 5 points of power, and to really upgrade the consciousness of the community. A year ago, at this exact time, we were panicked because we weren't putting $20,000 on our mortgage principal. We were losing $20,000 into thin air, and we couldn't figure out why. We couldn't figure out what was going on, that we had the same thing. Nothing really was different, except we went from losing to gaining because we changed inside. We can change our world even when our world doesn't look any different. People say, well, Barbara, you want me to tithe? The most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I can't pay my bills as it is. Exactly. And you and your belief that you can't pay your bills as it is what's keeping you from paying your bills. So when people move into a more generous giving or tithing, then they challenge that fear that says, I don't have enough, and are insisting that they do have enough, and what happens is they have enough, even if nothing else changed. We are amazingly creative spiritual beings, and if we have imprisoned ourselves, it's a prison of our own making, and if we step into freedom, it is a freedom of our own acceptance and creation. Created equal. Created equal, finally. Finally. Wallace Wattles says the world is perfect, though not complete. And I would present that our country is perfect, but it is still a work in progress. But I tell you, we are growing by leaps and bounds in this country. When they wrote that to King George, we hold these truths to be self-evident, obvious. Self-evident. Anybody who sees them needs to, can recognize them. This is not complicated. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men, and certain kinds of men at that time, all people are created equal. And they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. You can't lose those rights. No one can take them away from you. And among them, there are others, but among them is the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, one of my favorites. We all get to be happy. We all get to have liberty, which is freedom. We all get to live. No one has a right to gun us down. We have a right to life, to liberty, to the pursuit of happiness. And that happened, and we have grown since then. We have worked diligently as a spiritual country to evolve into where we are today, which is still evolving into greater levels of realization of who we are. We are not a secular country. And I'm not talking about the Christian right. I'm talking about the pyramid on the dollar. And what's on the top of the pyramid? A third eye. Wow. There's some interesting metaphysical symbols that came in to the structure of our country as we created it. And we created it on spiritual ideas that says God gave us the right to stand on our own 2 feet. And I would say we are created out of that divine spirit, and with it comes the ability to stand on our own 2 feet. And no one was created better or worse than anyone else. And I'll grant you, it has taken a while for us to make the strides that we have made. I understand that there was active focus on same-sex right to marriage for 40 years. The women's suffrage movement went on for 50 years. Women were imprisoned, they were killed, they were raped because they said, I want to vote. I want a right to my children. I want a right to be heard. People of same-sex couples say, I want a right to have power of attorney, of legal, health counsel with the person I've been married to for 30 years. I want that right. And so that's what happened last week. We had the women's right to vote happen. We had civil rights, and frankly, I think we're still working on that one. We had the, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, and then we had the, what was it called, reparation? Reformation, and nothing happened. And then we had the civil rights movement, and things have happened, but we are still working on this idea that says we are all created equal. We are all, if you want to take it into metaphysics and science of mind, we are all God beings, and as such, we have everything that we need. And there is nothing outside of us that can take that away. That it is all happening inside of ourselves, and we have the entire universe lifting us up into a consciousness that says freedom, health, wholeness, liberty, happiness. Those are givens. Those are givens for us. And yet, as we have all seen, that when we shut down from that and say, no, I don't have that, then the universe says, right you are, you don't have that. And that the work is done inside to lift ourselves up into the knowingness of who we are. And people look at me and they say, well, Barbara, it's easy for you to say. No, not so much. Not so much from the child that I grew up as, who was hungry, who grew up in an environment where there was not enough, who grew up in a situation of very poor self-esteem. I didn't even speak clearly enough when I went to elementary school to be understood or heard. I had to go into a special class to where I could learn to speak up. I learned. But I went through that doubting of myself. I acted it out with being on welfare, being on food stamps, feeling like I couldn't raise my child, giving plasma twice a week. That's just going to being bled. Twice a week for a year to try to have enough, until I realized that this is not about me trying to get. This is about me knowing who I am. And as we open up to the idea of who we are, we lift ourselves up, and then we lift everyone around us up, just like Sherry did. They don't know what hit them. Forgiveness, love, and light hit them and changed that entire clan. Yes. So our job is on the inside. But I love this country. I personally, and I will include my sister in this, have ancestors on both sides of our family that signed the Declaration of Independence. And that was not a choice of safety at the time. You know, they say our major choices in life are freedom or safety. That was not a safe choice. That was a choice for freedom. And then to not only thumb your nose at the king, of the major king of England, but to put your family and your property and all of your life on the line for that. And they did that. They did that because they had a belief that there was something inside of us that could rise up out of limitation and go beyond that which we had ever known. You know, this idea of created equal, if anybody has ever done it, you can do it. And even if no one has ever done it yet, you can do it. So we didn't have a country yet that could say, I decided not to be a colony anymore, and I know that you completely have more soldiers and money and assets and all of that than me, but still I'm going to trust on my own gumption, my own chutzpah. We're going to trust that there is something within us that can carry us through. And other people were saying, you're just going to the slaughter. And they said, like Thomas Paine, give me liberty or give me death, so be it. And I wonder how we do that in our lives, where we're willing to step away from a relationship that is tyrannical, that is abusive, that is sucking the life out of us, when we are willing to step away from a job that we think that's the only way we can survive, and yet we know it is not ours to do. And the voice that tries to keep us safe says, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, you're going to die. And a part of us steps up and says, so be it. Give me liberty or give me death. I will step out of what I know into the unknown based on the idea that I have a God-given right and ability for life, a life worth living, liberty, freedom to make the choices in my life and to experience the effects of those causes and to be happy in life, at least to pursue happiness. And if you pursue happiness at this center, you will find it. You will find it. I'm just very proud, and I know that there are probably people here who are not American citizens. And I don't mean that you're under the wire for the green cards. I mean, you were born somewhere else. I'm very proud of that. But for me, I love this country. I love this country not because it's not screwed up, not because there are not people in government who are insane, not because we're not addicted to bombs. I love this country because there's an idea that is underneath everything that says we can live the life that we were meant to live. That there is a spiritual reality to us that is more than the experiences on the outside. And I love that because I think that that's true of everybody in the whole world. And when they hear that, then there's something that ignites within them and they stand up taller and they're willing to risk a little more and put themselves out a little bit more. I love that idea that we are created equal, that nobody has anything more than we do, that we don't have anything less than anyone else, that no one has anything less than us, and we don't have anything more than anyone else. That's where your forgiveness work comes in. When you move into that idea that says, oh, well, they bless their hearts. Southern Belle, bless their hearts. They just don't have what it takes to be spiritual, to be clear, to be powerful, to be whatever, and that's just not true. So when we have those thoughts, that's the time to remember that we can only be who we are when we see everyone else as they are. And so I've had wonderful little conversations with people about, gosh, this not complaining thing. What occurred to me is that every time I'm feeling a little bit superior to someone, I'm really complaining. Every time I'm sarcastic, I'm complaining. Every time I'm mocking, I'm complaining. Every time I'm simply pointing out what someone is doing wrong, I'm complaining. Whether it's coming out of my mouth or whether it's just going round and round and round in my head. And so what we need to do is look at ourselves. Forgive ourselves for complaining, that's okay. And look at what is it inside of us that we want so much. I want us all to be powerful and free and loving and joy-filled and prosperous and healthy. I want every one of us to be that way, which means I've got to see everybody as that. There are no victims, only volunteers. There is no one that's less than anyone else. All of us are spiritual beings, come to planet Earth with powers far beyond those than we realize, to create a reality. And I think that we are standing on a precipice of creating amazing experiences, not only in our country, but in the entire world right now. And people say, well, how can you say that when you've got this and that and this and that? But you know, anytime you shine the light, things are attracted to it. Anytime you plant a seed, the first thing that comes up is not your plant, it's a little bit of dirt. So when I hear about the things that are happening, there's a little bit of dirt because there's something growing under here. There's something coming out in us. There is something that whether or not people are all in alignment with on the outside or not, we are all in alignment with it on the inside, or we wouldn't be alive on the planet today. There is something that's coming up that says we are all the same. We are all points of the divine. We are all God beings. We are all amazing. We are all beings of love, and we have rights. We have rights to life. We have rights to freedom. We have rights to have our lives the way we want them to be. We have those rights, whether we're here, whether we're in Cambodia, whether we're in Africa, whether we're in South America, no matter where we are, we have those rights to have that. And so simply by being a part of this center and by our connection with David Alt in Atlanta, there are 300 wells in Cambodia. Simply by being a part of this center and its connection with the teens. There are schools in Malawi. And did you have an outside connection with that? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but you had an inside connection of knowing the truth, knowing who you are, seeing everybody else like that, and watching the consciousness lift. I think this is perhaps the most amazing 4th of July, because it is the moment in time when people have it right in their face. We are all created equal. None of us are less. We are all the same. Doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter who you love. It doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have. We are all created the same. And there is nothing better that we can have out of science of mind than this idea that says we are all God manifest as us. We are all amazingly powerful. We are all amazingly beautiful. We already have more than the amount of money we could ever spend, health in our bodies, wonderful, joyous relationships. We already have that, and we have the entire universe supporting that, so that supposed coincidences and serendipities and all of that are in the works right now for you in your life to have that manifest. We're standing at a point in time that history will note when America woke up, and we woke the whole world up with us, that we are all created equal because we are all points of God, and so it is.